to get started. Welcome everyone to this quarter's webinar from Team Stetzel. We were just chatting before I started the recording about trying to bring relevant information to those people who continue to show up, and for the new people who are showing up to these webinars. If you guys have suggestions or want to see more of something, definitely put it in the chat window. So today is our presentation is on the 3 master keys of success. Please know this is a very abridged version of a much longer workshop, but I think we're going to be able to bring some really great information to all of you today. So welcome to 3 Master Keys of Success. If you have not met us yet, my name's Trisha Stetzel and co-owner of Results Extreme Business Solution, and my partner who's going to be doing most of the presenting today, Mr. Dennis Stetzel.
Thank you, Trisha. And before we started the recording, we were talking about, although this is business oriented and kind of business focused, the 3 master keys of success that we're about to go through today is applicable beyond business. So I think that's what makes this one of the more exciting things to present, things to talk about, things to unpack, because it really takes on a life of its own when you apply it universally across all the things that define success. And with that, I'll jump into this next slide. So what is success, and why is it that some people are more successful than others? And I think it has everything to do with the 3 concepts that we're going to talk about today. And again, it goes beyond that of just business success. This is successful in life, successful in relationships, successful in communications and interaction, and just in general, feeling successful and being successful in your health and fitness. So let's start. So the 3 master keys of success in a very, very summarized form boil down to these 3 things. Right? There's a quote: "You become what you think about most of the time," and that key is tied to the self-concept and the law of self-control, which we'll unpack a little bit more later. The second is success is goals. Everything else is commentary. Everything else is a wish. So the second key to success being goals and accountability systems. And then the third, the quote there being, "In the choice of the response, you choose your entire life." And that's really the holistic approach, and taking personal responsibility for all components of your life, for all decisions that are made. You are responsible. You are the only one that can make that choice. No one makes that choice for you, and you're responsible for your reaction. You're responsible for your response. You're responsible for where you position yourself, and no one else is. So with that, we'll take it a little bit deeper around the self-concept. And the self-concept, it's essentially the external world. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. What you see and what you feel internally and is a reflection of your external world. It will be, right? And the way you think inside determines your attitudes and behaviors. And when you understand why you feel the way that you do, you understand how you learn and why you perceive things the way that you do, then that gives you, it's kind of the launching pad for your ability to change. And there's a good diagram, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Trisha for just a second to walk us through kind of a whiteboard and talk us through this thing that we call the law of self-control. And it's brought to us by Brian Tracy. It's repeated in many different forms. There's the Oz principle, there's other theories, and to be clear, everyone, these concepts have been around forever. This is not something new. I mean, in fact, Brian Tracy will tell you, nothing that we talk about in business or these concepts are brand new. They've existed forever. They just take on different forms and take on different ways of presenting them. So the law of self-control by Brian Tracy. Trisha, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the simplest way to show how the things that we do internally expose themselves externally. What we normally see in this diagram is a mountain, right? And where we are is down here at the bottom. And what we know is everything begins with our thoughts. Or some people like to describe that as self-talk, the language that we use, the things that we say to ourselves. So our thoughts drive what? Our beliefs or our feelings. So everything that we're thinking, all of the language that we're using, all of the self-talk that we have internally drives our beliefs. You may be familiar with the Oz principle. I know this is something that Dennis has dived into in the past, and really talking about that Oz principle and what that looks like, and self-limiting beliefs and those sorts of things. It really all does start at the base with the thoughts that you have and the self-talk, and those feelings and beliefs will in turn drive action. And from that action, you could probably guess that's where the results come from. So I want you to think about something negative that you may have said or told yourself, or use some negative language in your life. What were the results of that? Because those negative thoughts, self-talk, will drive negative beliefs, negative actions, and negative results. And transversely, those positive thoughts or self-talk will drive positive results. And it's all up to you. You decide what starts at the base of the mountain, and that's where the results are going to come from. Dennis, back to you.
Okay. Can I take a slightly a different perspective on this?
Of course you can.
Because you and I think one of our strengths is the fact that we think about things a little bit differently. So if I'm listening to Trisha, I'm saying, yeah, that sounds like a big group hug. Like if I think it, it will happen. But you know, I'm more on the scale of the C, or the show me type of examples. And where I see this play out all the time is not so much that, I have a Zen moment and my thoughts and my self-talk are positive, and therefore I believe in myself and I love myself, and therefore, everything kind of through my aura makes it work and makes it happen, and I achieve these amazing results. I think where this manifests a little bit differently, or the way to explain it a little bit differently, is if you truly do not believe, if your self-talk says that this is not going to be successful, right? If you go out in the business world today, or you go visit a client, or you go visit a prospective client, and in the back of your mind, your belief is, this is a lost cause, this isn't happening, then the actions, the client is going to feel that. Your team is going to feel that. The prospect is going to feel that. Whatever business relationship, whatever personal relationship, those beliefs and those feelings are going to show up in your actions, and you're going to get the results that you told yourself you were going to get. And how many times do we see business owners, business leaders enter into a situation where they're already convinced they're going to lose this, or they're already convinced, they already have themselves convinced that the outcome has already been defined, and they don't necessarily take that next step to fully prepare, right? I don't need to get up early and prepare for this because it's a lost cause anyway. I don't need to get or arrive early. I don't need to make that proactive phone call. I don't need to align all the different people that I need to align in order to make this successful, because it's going to fail anyway. Those are the tangible actions that I think are, if you actually believe that you have a shot and you tell yourself you have a shot, then you're going to prepare adequately and you're going to take action in order to achieve those results. If you've already convinced yourself it's a lost cause, that's ultimately where your results are going to land. Fair?
It still sounds like a hug.
It does.
So
right.
That, my friends, is self-concept, right? And that is one of our master keys of success.
So let me steal the screen back from you and keep going. Whoops. So once you master that self-concept, the self-talk, the self-belief, the law of self-control, then you have to, the second key is goals and accountability systems, right? You have to have goals. You have to set goals, and they should be lofty goals. And setting goals establishes that framework and that roadmap or plans to make the accomplishment. If you set out in a general direction, you'll land in a generally lost destination, right? So setting those goals, making them clear, and then setting it, it's a skill, it's something you practice, and over time, what seemed like a really arduous task becomes just part of your daily regimen. And how you get there is you share those with people. You build an accountability network. You get, what we like to call accountability buddies, or some other way to track, not just internally. If you say, I plan to achieve $1 million in revenue by the end of this year, and by sharing that and building an accountability network and talking through that, people are going to help you, and you're going to help yourself. And it builds, the positive momentum builds on itself, especially by sharing your goals and building that accountability system. Now, one method, there are many, many methods out there, but one method and yet another workshop and a way to think about your goals is they're SMART goals. And if you Google it, you'll see a lot of different renditions, but I think this is the most direct and the easiest to understand, is SMART. So they're specific. It's not a general ask. It's very specific. I will achieve $1 million in revenue before the end of fiscal year 23. That's pretty specific. It's measurable. This idea that it's aligned with your values, right? Aligned with your values means that it's not something that it's something that you can align with. If you're going to achieve $1 million in revenue within your business, make sure that it aligns with your core business, that you're not going to do anything that deviates from the core values of your company or the core values of the mission, that it's realistic. So if you're just getting started and your particular product or service is yielding 100,000 a year, and the margin on those is 20 cents per unit, is $1 million realistic? Maybe with the right support, it could be, but give some serious thought as to whether or not, jumping from $100,000 in revenue a year to $1 million a year is truly realistic. And then also time bound, right? By the end of the year. And I get a lot of questions about, well, you talk about, is it realistic? I hear different things about setting lofty goals, setting stretch goals. Let's just say, for example, that we use that $100,000 clip level, and the margins are rather low and the volumes would have to increase dramatically. Well, by setting a time bound, by making them time bound and saying by the end of fiscal year 22, if you go aggressively at it, even if you miss the mark dramatically, you're pushing very, very hard, and you're going to learn a lot from it. And then the next set of goals might be more realistic, and you'll make some adjustments. And so what maybe was $1 million, maybe it turns out to be 800K, or maybe it turns out to be 2 million, because you made great breakthroughs. You created, associations and alignments and partners, and what seemed unachievable, because you were pushing and driving at it, you actually achieved it. And so your next goal is even more ridiculous and unrealistic and inachievable potentially, but you figured out how to do it, right? So specific, measurable, aligned with your values, realistic, and time bound is kind of the key around goal setting. So when you do set a goal, just do the check. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it aligned with the values? Is it realistic? Realistic being not a layup. It's got to be a stretch. And is it time bound? Have you set a deadline in order to achieve that goal?
And if you actually go and do this, if you actually go and write your goals down, you will join the less than 3% of Americans who actually write their goals down. And less than 1% of those actually work on them every day. So become the elite, write your goals. This is how we all become successful. Again, number 2, master key to success. That was awesome, Dennis.
And then the final is taking personal responsibility. And it is an attitude. It's about being proactive as opposed to being reactive. And high achieving men and women across all cultures, across all industries are known for taking responsibility for their results, taking responsibility for where they are, taking responsibility for where they're headed, right? And by doing that, right, regardless of the outcomes, regardless of setbacks, you have a level of self-control. You develop this self-control where you manage, you maintain, and you set your own destiny. And your journey to that destiny is controlled by you and no one else, right? And that's super important, right? People who have a sense of control and people who take personal responsibility are far more high achieving than anyone else. It's no one else's fault. And if you go, we had the benefit of living in Japan, and there's something called JCI, Japanese compulsory insurance, that you have to buy. And when you buy JCI, you take responsibility. It doesn't matter if someone T-bones you while you're at a stop sign. You're partially responsible. You chose to get out on the road. You chose to be there. And so there's a level of personal responsibility, right? You entered the roadway. You became part of the driving population. And so there's some element of responsibility that you need to take. So taking responsibility is huge for everything in your life, everything in business, your actions, your reactions, your responses, and even those things that are seemingly beyond your control. If they impact you, they're your responsibility. Now, how does that manifest itself in a model, or how do you visualize that? You may have seen a previous webinar where we talked about victor victim. This is a webinar in and of itself. If you haven't seen it, go back in YouTube. It's unpacked a little bit deeper in that webinar, but we call it living above the line or below the line, right? Being above the line, people who are above the line, we call them victors. They have nothing to prove. And to prove is proactive, they're responsible, they take ownership, they have a visionary presence about them, they have a vision, and they're always striving to achieve excellence, right? And these are the opportunity seekers. These are the people who win consistently, right? Below the line, these are people that assign blame and look for blame. They find excuses, cleverly disguised as reasons for not getting something done. They live in a world of negativity. They live in a world of denial, and it's never enough. There's never enough resources. There's never enough time. They didn't get enough sleep. They didn't get enough. The fuel tank was too low. It's just never, ever, ever enough. And they project themselves as a victim. And we say that they have the bends, right? And if you look at these two people, right, how many people do you know who just typify these two on a daily basis? Do they have the bends? Or do they have nothing to prove? Are they the victor or the victim? So take a peek if this is an unfamiliar concept. It's unpacked more in another YouTube video. But ultimately, taking responsibility for where you are. You may have setbacks, but can you be proactive about learning from those setbacks? Can you be responsible for making sure that it never happens again? Can you take ownership for what you are truly responsible for? Revise your vision and look ahead, look forward, not behind, and then take that next step toward that next level of excellence that you were looking to achieve in the first place, right? It's not always going to be a series of successful goal achievement, but in the face of failure or in the face of a setback, these people who have nothing to prove move past it and make progress against that goal and continue to move forward instead of sitting or stagnating or moving back from where they were to start with.
And sometimes we all fall below the line. That's why we need an accountability buddy, right? We just need to be aware that we're down there. And I also want you to think about and be aware of the people that you're hanging around with, right? Whether it's at work or personally. Are they below the line or above the line? And how does that affect you in taking your own personal responsibility when you surround yourself with victims? If you have a team of people, I know some of you on the call have larger teams. Is your team affected by someone who consistently and constantly lives below the line? Or do you have a team of victors? which team do you want to be on? Which team do you want to manage, right? This is huge when we talk about success.
And I love this concept too, Trisha, because when you have a team that's familiar with this, it becomes really easy to snap people out of that mode, right? Just by saying, all right, time to get above the line. And we do it on a regular basis. It's not that people don't go below the line, but when you go below the line and you start the woe is me, or you start the, gosh, if he or she would have only done what I expected them to do, then okay, time to come back above the line. And so by being aligned and working with your team, going through this concept, and just as an organization, as a team, as a group of accountability buddies, being familiar with this, just that trigger saying, all right, time to come above the line, it snaps you out of it. And you kind of realize where you were, and giving your accountability buddy or giving your team or giving your partner permission to say, all right, time to come back above the line. It's really, really powerful in shifting that mindset from, okay, I believe this is going to fail, that no, actually, let's move it. Let's progress it. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What are my beliefs about what's happening now? And how are those impacting my actions right now? And ultimately driving the results, positive or negative. It's all tied together, right? So that being the example here, the bottom line is the results we get in life are governed by the image that we hold of ourselves in our subconscious mind, right? And Trisha's really big on mindset and achievement. I don't know if this is what you insert. I think you inserted this, is it even possible? Is achievement even possible without the right mindset? And I think before I go to the last slide, Trisha, you want to talk about mindset for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that I've started doing for even my audience on social media is posting something about mindset every Monday. And it's huge. If you're not in the right mindset, if you don't put yourself in the right frame of mind, if you don't want to call it mindset, then how can you achieve the things that you want to achieve, right? And this is whether you see it above the line, below the line. I think that and the law of self-control really complement each other in that space, right? But if I'm at the bottom of the mountain and my mindset today is, I am not a morning person. I'm not, if I continue to tell myself I am not a morning person, then I will never be a morning person. But if I wake up and say I will be a morning, or I am a morning person, then I will be, because I now believe that, right? We start to believe all of the things that we tell ourselves. And if it's good, great. You're going to have those positive results, right? You got to be successful. If we're not, then we're going to end up with the opposite of that. And for me, it's all about the mindset and having a way to pull yourself back out, being aware of where are you at? What does your mindset look like today? So yeah, it all starts there for me. I believe that's a foundation to success.
Very good. All right, so let's pull it all back in, right? We talked about the 3 master keys of success, right? You become what you think about most of the time, right? The self-concept and the law of self-control that Trisha just covered, right? Then moving into the goals and accountability systems. Now that you have your thoughts and feelings and your beliefs and your actions aligned and consistent with what you want to achieve, you have to really clearly define through SMART goals what achievement really means. What is that SMART goal? $1 million in revenue by the end of fiscal year 23 in a particular service line or a particular product. And then taking personal responsibilities. It's not about finding blame or finding excuses. It's about finding alternatives and options and taking responsibility for where you are, where your organization is, and even where your partners and your vendors and your network of people who will help you be successful, taking responsibility for your interactions with them. Okay. So that brings us to the end. And again, Trisha mentioned this at the beginning. This is a very, very short version of large topics that can be unpacked in multi-hour sessions and larger group or individual sessions. But that brings us to the final slide and maybe some additional information and a call to action. Trisha, you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And oh, by the way, for my business owners that are out there, if you don't have a call to action at the end of a presentation, shame on you. So here it is. We've got a great business growth scorecard out there. It's free. I get a summary of the information. I'll reach out to you to see if you want to have a follow-on conversation. It measures your clarity, effectiveness, growth, sales, and leadership skills in your business. This is even great for my leaders that are on the call with us today. So just click on the scan or take a picture of the scan me QR code up there. It'll take you straight to the site. You can take the assessment, if you will, or the scorecard, and I won't hold you accountable to anything unless you want to be held accountable, and let's have a talk about where you're at and how you'd like to improve that. The other thing is Dennis and I have opened up our calendars, so we've got some 20-minute spots open if you guys want to review your SMART goals and what that looks like, and build in some accountability there. We've both opened up our calendars, and you can go to my link, which is right there on this screen for you. In our follow-up email, you will also get the link, and you can click on that and book a time with either one of us. Both of our links will be in there. I think that's it.
I think so. We've gotten some really, really good feedback on that growth score. And I think the price is right? It's free. Oh, free. Yeah, that is a good price.
And there's so much value behind it. You know, as coaches, we only get the summary of your score, but as an individual, if you haven't taken, there's a couple of people on the call today that have already taken that growth scorecard. But for those of you who haven't taken advantage of it, please do. You get a huge summary of tips and tricks and things that you can do in your business to improve your score in any of those areas. So we are right at the end of our talk today. Thank you guys for hanging with us today on some really important subjects. And it's not just about your using this in your own personal lives, your own personal business, but with those that you work with, right? And teaching them these concepts as well, whether it's your team, your vendors, your clients. If we all are working above the line, if we're all using that positive self-talk or those positive thoughts, then we're all going to be successful on the back end.
Good. Thanks everyone for joining. Any last minute questions? I think we answered everything.
Yeah, I think we're all good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Very good.
You guys have a fantastic afternoon.
Everyone.
You can count on us to start on time and end on time, or maybe
That's right.
even a little early. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone.